Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is Scott Churchson, Obie Spencer, and eventually J.D. Walker and Mr. Rob Ace Stats from the Sports Den. And welcome to Spanglish World Network on Zingo TV channel 250. Kindly remember to download the Zingo TV app on the app stores of iOS and Android devices. When you download, kindly make sure to rate, leave a comment. Both apps are free, so you definitely can't beat the price. Zingo TV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, Fire TV sticks, Roku sticks, and all smart 2016 and forward. And happy good days out there. Happy Tuesday to you all. Welcome, J.D. Walker, under the new system that we've got set up here. This is the Sports Den. How's everybody doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Glad to be here. Enjoying our new system, like you say.
Yes.
My mic's in the frame. That's new, but all right, we're good.
Some kind of a pumpkin or something to your left.
This is my from me, my Scotch and I. This is my whiskey cabinet.
Ooh, all right.
Oh, fancy.
So
I always wanted a Globe whiskey cabinet ever since oh my goodness.
Wasn't it Rodgers?
Inglourious Bastards.
Okay.
Inglourious Bastards. He has the Globe whiskey cabinet in that. As soon as I saw it, I said that's for me, and eventually we got it. So yes.
Nice. I guess we're allowed to say bastards on the show. Can we say bastards? I don't know if bastards is a bad word that we can say or we can't say bastards. Anyway, we'll find out. So we got a bunch of stuff to go on at this point. It's been a few weeks for me. I know you guys actually pinch hit and did a show without me, which I'm grateful for, while I was stuck in torrential hurricane weather and rain. Mm-hmm. Production says that apparently it's not politically correct to say that. So apologies to production in this particular case. But you live and you learn, you grow and grab new things. But we're going to be talking a fair amount about some NFL today. We've got some overreactions, some underreactions. We've got an obscure sport we're going to mention. I do want to give a small shout out, probably towards the end of the show, to the life, the legacy, and the hilarity of Norm Macdonald, who passed away earlier.
Wait, who?
Off record. Yeah, Norm Macdonald just passed away.
No.
So, that was my reaction. So that's why I want to throw a little bit of a quick shout out. It's off topic, but you know what?
Norm was the man, dude, and he was a huge sports fan too.
Yeah, Turd Ferguson, Pigeon, everything that man has done over the course of decades of stuff. So I want to give a much respected shout out to that probably towards the end of the show. But before we get into all that, as always, you can find us on Facebook and on Instagram at Spanglish World Sports Den, and also at SSW Sports Den on Twitter. So check us out if you got questions, thoughts, ideas, comments, or complaints. Anyway, enough of my babbling. How you gentlemen doing?
I'll start. I'm good. Yeah. I love Obie's backdrop. My bad. I literally just jumped on because I was bouncing between. It never fails. Every time I go to log on, like on my computer, like my PC, it does something stupid, and I'm like, why am I not logging in? So now I literally have the laptop sitting on the PC desk, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just going into the laptop, and it's not a Tuesday if I'm not fixing something in my house. So there was that. Well, I've been trying to unplug a train.
We're under the new system right now, which should be in theory live streaming, so that may help a little bit there. But you know what? The green screen works for it, even if it's just generic green screen.
Yeah, that's right. I still have like the lighting from the PC with the laptop cam. So and I just got a new camera for my birthday, so a new webcam, like the Logitech Brio, and I'm like, I didn't even get a chance to set it up. So I'm like, we'll get to that. It's a work in progress.
Mr. Walker, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. I'm still figuring out my setup in this room. I don't have all the fancy equipment yet. I do need a new laptop, but we'll talk about that as far as what's best for what's good for the show.
Appreciate the dedication.
Mm-hmm. But it was otherwise we're doing pretty well.
Groovy. So basically, as the world knows, we had week 1 of the NFL. As many people on Facebook know, the Giants lost on Sunday. Which required some level of trolling from Mr. Rob Stats, Mr. Ace Manzuri, or whatever you're going by this time. Trolling me because of the fact that as a devoted Giants fan, I'm a struggling Giants fan, but he believes I feel that I am making a mountain out of a molehill.
I mean, I understand your pain. I mean, it's not like your franchise has won 4 Super Bowls in the last 30 years. I mean, you're not as obnoxious as those Eagle fans, right, Obie? I mean, you guys and all your championships and everything, and every title they win in every league, NBA, NHL, NFL, well, those Philly fans are annoying. They have all those championships and they constantly complain. But those Giant fans, they haven't had anything in so long. It's been decades. I mean, my Miami Dolphin fans, I know we're obnoxious. It's been like 72 feels like yesterday. Mercury Morris is he's got the champagne bottles on ice right now. But no, I mean, it is what it is. And we always joke about it every year, but you kind of expect it you got to set the standards to reality. Like this, when Daniel Jones fumbled, I literally was sitting there. I'm going, he's going to fumble as soon as he started running. And they were ripping on him this afternoon about it. They're like, he doesn't know how to slide. And like every time he fumbles, it's because he wants to go in head first and he gets stripped. And I'm like, yeah, it's like as soon as he started running, I'm like, and I'm sure I'm not the only person watching the game. There were plenty of Giant fans going, he's going to drop the ball. He's going to give it up. He's going to turn it over. And it's, you can't even, I get Saquon's coming back. He's kind of on a pitch count. He's not, no, he's not back yet. And Kenny Golladay was there. I mean, Evan Ingram wasn't there, but is it going to be like this for 17 weeks, 18 weeks? Like every time something goes wrong. And Joe Judge, just unacceptable to throw the challenge flag, whether it was out of frustration or whatever. Like, oh, somebody on the sideline told him to throw it. Well, somebody needs to be out of a job. Like, you can't be doing that in year 2. Like, I know that, and I'm not even getting paid $1 million to be a coach. I'm like, you don't throw. I was like, oh, he was out of bounds. Like, okay, they'll review it. Like, that's why NFL refs now, you look at them, they'll call the play. They'll be like, touchdown or interception, because they know it'll be automatically reviewed, plain and simple. Like, there's no debate about it.
Yeah. Look, the Giants looked miserable, but a lot of teams looked miserable in week 1. My Eagles, yes, I am now an Eagles fan, looked good with their quarterback that they can't get rid of fast enough, but maybe the second best quarterback in the division. And the Redskins lost their quarterback. So I think the Giants have a chance, I'm sad to say, because that division is such a toss-up. We don't know what's going to happen in there. We don't know who Jalen Hurts is. We don't know what the Dallas defense is, because they certainly look like the same Dallas defense from last year. And a few guys come back and they learn that, Saquon is Saquon. They're going to be in some games, and it might take what we used to call 9 wins, but I don't know what 9 wins means in a 17-game season, but it's going to take 9 wins to win the division again, whether that turns out to be 10 wins or whatever. And again, in a 17-game season, we'll all learn the proper terminology in the coming years. But one game does not unseason me. Granted, in a few minutes, we are going to go ahead and make some overreactions based on 1 week, but the reality is those are overreactions and we know it.
I mean, in my case, I think part of my problem is the fact that I'm so used to Giant failures. Now, I did do the homework on this, and Rob, I owe you a small apology here. I went back the last 15 years and looked up playoff and winning teams over the last 15 years since 2006. In general, with just like a little over half a dozen teams. Miami Dolphins at this point have been to the playoffs twice in the last 15 years with 3 winning seasons. The Giants, 5 trips to the playoffs, 6 winning seasons. So I stand corrected. You have had more struggles and more suffering in the last 15 years. Additionally, for the Jets fans out there, and I'm looking at one of you in specific, the Jets.
Yeah, you have zero sympathy from me.
The Jets,
I think we know who the Jet fan is by process of elimination here.
Yeah,
as we're looking down,
as a Jets fan, I only have living vicariously through other local teams' Super Bowls. Just because they beat the Patriots. That's as close as I've gotten to any kind of success in the last 10 years. Arguably the last 50. So,
but here's the weird thing I found: the Jets have been to the playoffs and have had more winning seasons in the last 15 years than the Dolphins had. Which surprised me a little bit because it's the history of the Jets. The last 10 years, they've haven't made the playoffs at all. But the Eagles, in this case, your team up there, 8 times they've actually been to the playoffs in the last 15 seasons with 9 winning seasons. So yours, far and away, have been the best team. Although by association, I think all of us here hate the Eagles in general, just because of the fact that it's Philadelphia. I love the city though. Reading Terminal Market's like one of the greatest places in the world for me ever. But as far as
I live down here, so my survival depends on begrudging tolerance of Eagles fans. But I have, as I mentioned before, I'm okay with the Eagles for the same reason I'm okay with the Giants. They beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl. So
Sure.
they prevented Tom Brady from having 10 championships.
And yet I was forced into a
I
position
had
to root for the Eagles.
I had to find a bar showing the Jets game in the middle of Eagles country. That was quite the task to try and find.
Yeah, you're in a bed. It's funny. People who don't know this, like where JD is, it's like limbo for New York sports fans down there. Like my family lives in like Central Jersey, and it was great because like my uncle always had the package or stuff, but we'd be able to watch all the games. But as you get below like the belt line, it's all Eagles stuff and it's all Philly. And like you're trying to find like a Giant game or a Jet game and it's not on. Like you're like, oh, I want to watch a Giant game. It's like, and we used to joke because like back in the day, like when the Eagles were bad and the Giants were decent, like were the favorable team to watch. You're like, oh, I got to watch the Eagle game. Like there's nobody on my fantasy team on the Eagles. Like give me the Giant game.
They actually
I gotta say, when I first moved down here, JD, I used to see Jets fans walking around, and of course, they got the green jersey. I always used to call it camouflage.
But all right,
I
so you know what?
I have a green T-shirt that I have worn to a few functions just to try and blend in. But it's quite the experience. Being at Eagles bars, and they actually show Giants games down here on Philly TV stations a decent amount because they're in the same division as the Eagles. Mm-hmm. If they have an open AFC time slot, they're showing the Steelers because they get better ratings than the Jets do down here, which I understand. Just as a Jets fan, now recently moved down here, it's difficult to try and find. But we did find one local bar that I can pop into for some games, or at least for a while, for the duration of the time that the Jets are worth my effort, usually until October.
I don't know if this can be zoomed at all, but I just wanted to pull up one stat when it came to Daniel Jones. This is a stat that I pulled up from a site called Stat News, which I highly recommend. It's actually a really underrated sports across the board stat site. Baseball, football, hockey, doesn't matter. But if you can look at it and come up in the top left there, Daniel Jones has 18 fumbles lost since 2019. Carson Wentz is second at 12. So as a Giants fan, this is updated as of this past weekend. That latest fumble against Denver, we're used to that, and this is where a lot of our frustration comes from because you need to have faith in your QB. We had a little bit of the concern with Eli, but Eli did put up some decent numbers a lot of time and what had to really carry an offense on a bad defense. Daniel Jones is fumbling the ball far too much, and he's not making stuff happen. He was great for my fantasy league as my second quarterback option because he did have a garbage touchdown at the end of the game for me, which is great. But he leads the league in fumbles and blows everybody away in fumbles lost. And Carson Wentz has played one more game since 2019 than he has. And that's where a lot of our concern is. Rex Ryan was like, you know what? I was wrong about the guy. Dump him. And this is where our sadness comes in. I mean, Rob, you've suffered longer, but you're on a better upward swing. Sorry,
well, see, I'm hopeful. I have hope for the Finns. I mean, like I said, last year, my big thing was too many fans put Tua on a pedestal early. Mm-hmm. And I was like, and even now, he's still got to prove himself. So we'll see what happens. I mean, one thing about that stat that you just showed for the league, I can guarantee you one person who will not be climbing up the ladder on that stat sheet is Deshaun Watson. He'll be sitting at 6 for a while.
It's funny. I did an article last week, or last week or the week before, for La Portada, and my hopeful guy, the one which ties in a little bit to Deshaun here. I really hope Tyron Taylor does well.
Absolutely.
I've rooted for that guy. I mean, he had 3 great years in Buffalo, really strong years, but he's floated as a backup. He's floated around the league. Now, granted, Houston is a terrible team. So he's using this probably more as a chance to mentor, but really latch on with somebody else later. But I have so much hope and faith for this guy that he can rebuild that career at the age of 30, 32, whatever it is, to latch on somewhere else and be a replacement, possibly.
All right, let's not really talk that Houston is that bad.
No, I was going to say they won. They got a W, and they absolutely smashed Jacksonville. Like they went full Roman Reigns and smashed Jacksonville.
Yeah, my second favorite team this season is going to be Houston, as long as they keep Deshaun where they have him. Like, they're paying him, and they're just like, you're not playing. You're a healthy scratch. That is like the best they can do in a bad situation, and I love it. So I'm all pulling for Tyrod and Houston all season until they change the way they do it, and they're making up for the Astros.
Obi and I were talking about this a few weeks ago, where Tyron Taylor has just had such bad luck in his career, going from getting tossed out of Buffalo for no reason at all, essentially, when they drafted Allen, or actually I think it might have been the year before. Then he ended up in Cleveland, where he lost his job to Baker Mayfield. He was with the Chargers, where after the collapsed lung from a bad needle from his own trainer sidelined him, that got Justin Herbert the starting job, and now he's in this spot in Houston. I hope he has some success, because he's gotten the shaft at a lot of places. So hopefully his luck turns around. But for that game, I think it was more of a reflection of how bad Jacksonville is. Same with the Eagles. I think Atlanta wasn't exactly that good last year either. So before we say that those teams are back and better than ever, let's look at who they played. I do think that Daniel Jones is Sam Darnold 2.0, and that they're
Darnold won.
Yeah, and they'll be going back to the quarterback draft, just like the Jets did this year. Same schedule, just a year behind. The same way the Jets are a few years behind the Dolphins' rebuilding schedule, which was the exact same thing. Fire Adam Gase, dump your quarterback, draft a rookie, and get an entirely new defense. Just the Jets have so many holes, they can't. Their defense is going to, and the line was still a mess. I'll be surprised if they can keep Zach Wilson upright for 17 games, because he won't be if it's like it was in this past game.
Robert Saleh said in an interview yesterday that that's like priority one, is protecting Zach Wilson, because he's like, he can't take that punishment for 17 games. He can't get hit that much. He can't get pressured that much. And Mekhi Becton looks like he's going to be just an injury-riddled offensive lineman for the duration of his career. He's already missed games last year. He's out this year. They got AVT, so he's probably going to have to move over or something. This year's been crazy too, because it felt like there were less. There were the more what they call them, controlled scrimmages or whatever, or joint practices and everything. But there's been so many massive major injuries, like the Baltimore Ravens. I don't know who's got the voodoo doll going on them, but like ACLs, Achilles, people are just dropping. Even in week one, it's like, it feels like it's an experiment. Like we're trying the lesser, the short, less active preseason, and it's not working the way they thought. It seems to have had the complete opposite effect. Like there's more injuries now. So it's like, do we go back to
It's been trending that way for several years, though.
Yeah, I don't think I think it's just when, if you have 5 preseason games and 1 regular season game, I think over those 6 games, it's going to, the number of plays per injury is going to be the same. Whether it's a bunch of preseason games or you start bringing in starters, football people get hurt, and it's just, when do they get hurt? It's kind of luck of the draw. I mean, wait till we see what happens in week 17, 18. We saw Kansas City's offensive line slowly going down one by one at the end of the season last year. What team is going to be looking beautiful until the end of the year this year, and also just fall apart as bodies, go away.
This also goes back to the last collective bargaining agreement negotiations, where they got rid of 2-a-days, and NFL training camp isn't the grind that it was for so many years. The days of Lombardi and Bear Bryant and the Junction Boys, those are, and the brutal preseason practices and preseason games, those are gone. So so a lot of the players don't really get up to full speed or into game shape until like week 5. And with rookies, especially offensive line, is where you see this issue the most. Combine that with a disconnect between the proliferation of spread offenses in college versus most pro-style offenses. It's an entirely different blocking scheme. That's why it seems like every team in the league has offensive line problems. You hear it all over. It's not just the Jets. It's not just the Giants. It's everybody, aside from like 4 teams. And those teams that have the good line and have the good schemes and have the luck of everybody staying healthy, they're usually the ones that are successful. That's why Dallas has come up better in the past few years. Because they have a better line that is able to block for Dak and Zeke. And when it fell apart last year, Dak got hurt. This is an issue throughout the whole league. And as a result, the quality of play. And I agree that reducing the practices is, it's what the players want, and that is worthy. Just the trade-off is the quality of play throughout the league usually doesn't warm up until several weeks into the season. So it's just a matter of if you can survive and tweak it and you don't get buried at 0-4 or 0-5, then you have a chance.
And additionally, it's also a 17-game schedule now, too. So you have that extra game in there for the potentiality of injury. And that was the biggest concern that, the players themselves had, going from a 16 to a 17-game season.
Yeah, and it's an absolute hypocrisy for the league to say that they care one iota about player safety and then turn around and you put in an extra game, eventually 2 games. They've been trying to make it 18 games.
Yeah.
Well, the USFL way back in the day had 18 games. Way back in the 80s, if you remember the USFL back then.
Herschel Walker made it out.
Yep. Herschel Walker. Actually, a lot of them did.
Steve Young,
had a decent
Doug
career.
Flutie. Yeah, plenty of guys did.
Yeah. Steve Young.
But to JD's point, and I think something that Rob and I were hammering, and even you, Scott, when we did our live draft. I mean, the linemen are getting hurt. The linemen don't know the systems, and Powell fell in the draft, past Chase, who couldn't catch, who all preseason all we heard about was that he couldn't catch the ball. So it's just, why is it that 4 guys who have a small talk show know that the offensive line is the problem and GMs don't? And this goes to, in my opinion, the line between trying to win and trying to get ticket sales. GMs are more, get those bodies in the seats, give me the hot names, and coaches are trying to win. And that separation grows more and more between job description year in and year out.
Yeah. Well, the same way I've said, regarding the Jets, I've said for several years, I said, it doesn't matter who your quarterback is. If you don't have a healthy line in front of him, he's cannon fodder anyway. You can't throw when you're on your back on the ground. So you fix the line first. And there's very few teams that do that, as Obi said, because quarterbacks sell tickets. And then and you have the teams like the Bengals who keep doing it over, and the Dolphins and the Jets, who keep doing it over and over again, and then wonder why each quarterback washes out, and it's just a never-ending cycle.
Well, we had talked way back in the draft that if Zach Wilson fails, the Jets are out of excuses. You borderline got a second one with Darnell. But if it happens again with Wilson, now you had 3 quarterbacks first round, highly touted, that failed under your system. And
who was the third? You counting Sanchez?
Sanchez.
I don't consider Sanchez a failure, though. I mean, he took him to 3 consecutive and an AFC Championship games, but when you look at how Rex
running game took them to
yes, exactly. Rex knew what he had, and he knew how to make it work, and that was a great example of put a line in front of the kid, hand the ball off 25 times a game, and let him throw it 20 times a game. Like they knew what they were doing back then. I didn't consider him. I mean, he's notorious for the butt fumble, but I never considered him a failure though, because he was what he was, and it just shows you how good Rex Ryan was at understanding what he had and how to make it work.
Okay.
I think
that situation ruined Sanchez, and he was already a lot of people got fired for that. And I read an article, talking about Tebow mania, and because of Tebow coming back to training camp with the Jaguars. And, why wasn't he more successful? Because Tebow mania became more trouble than it was worth. And also because getting Tebow got a lot of people fired with the Jets. So as a result, no other team wanted to touch him.
Mm.
So,
all right.
But also with the as for Sanchez, that line that the Jets had back then when they were going to the AFC Championship game 2 years in a row was anchored by arguably two borderline Hall of Famers in Ferguson and Mangold.
Yeah. Oh, Nick Mangold, one of the most underrated offensive
And
linemen of all time, in my opinion.
Yeah, and then since then they drafted nothing for years. So when they got old and retired, the line fell apart.
But you're probably right.
3 years ago, when
it is about looking good, for the presses, for the social media aspect. If you just look at the Hall of Fame in general, how many offensive linemen typically in the Hall of Fame versus quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, and anybody on defense? It's the least glorious position outside of maybe like punter or kicker. Punter and kicker might have more glory than they've got.
The only offensive linemen people know are the Dallas Cowboys offensive linemen because people did not want to give the big three credit in the day. So they kept going, look at the offensive line, look at the offensive line.
They gave him pub.
Right, because they wanted to not like Aikman. Otherwise, offensive lines get ignored. But that's the NFL we live in, and I've looked at the stats. Statistically speaking, there are no offensive linemen in the Hall of Fame compared to quarterbacks when there's 5 on the field and only 1 quarterback.
Yeah.
Usually when you know an offensive lineman's name, it's because he's getting a bunch of holding penalties or is just that bad. Like Eric Flowers was a household name among Giants fans because he was that bad.
Yeah.
All right, so we're actually about halfway through at this point. Like I said, you can always find us on Twitter at SSW Sports Den, and on Instagram and on Facebook at Spanglish World Sports Den. We do have our obscure sport coming up, but we got to do our overreaction and underreaction for about the next, say, 10 or 15 minutes. And then we'll do the obscure sport, which I've been looking forward to. I know basically the last show, the one that you had was not as obscure as I thought it was going to be. I did hear that, even though I wasn't here. JD and Obi were kind enough to say, yeah, we knew this one. So I tried to do a little bit better this time. A little more violent.
In fairness, Obi knew it. I did not.
Okay. All right. But still, it's 50%. I try to avoid that. But overreaction, underreaction. First off, I want to give a huge shout out to the quarterback with the 7th best quarterback rating in the NFL right now. The 7th best, Trey Lance. He is a perfect 100% passing. 1 touchdown in his only pass. He has a 126-1 quarterback rating, which is good for 7th overall in the NFL right now in his 1 single pass. My overreaction, though, in all fairness, don't sweat it with Aaron Rodgers. Yes, he has the worst quarterback rating. Yes, he threw 0 touchdowns, 2 picks, but he is not going to go out in Green Bay, and I do think this is his last year. He is not going to go out that way. He is going to actually rebound. Don't underestimate that team, despite the fact that they got crushed over the weekend. Obi?
I agree.
All right.
I think Rodgers will bounce back. I don't know if he'll be as good as last year. But while Obi and I both picked Chiefs-Packers Super Bowls, and that pick doesn't look so good after week 1, I do think that he will bounce back.
Yeah, I do think. Honestly, I don't think Tampa's going to lose it. It's if Tom Brady stays healthy, I don't see any reason why they would lose. But.
Oh, okay. I think that's an overreaction. That was your overreaction right there. But I'm going to give my overreactions because this is my bit. My number one overreaction is that it's official. Josh Allen last year was a fluke. That's my number one overreaction. Mm-hmm. I mean, in general, I'm a guy who wants to see it 2 years in a row out of the quarterback. I'll admit, I waited a year to say Mahomes is an absolute stud, while everyone else said, "Oh, this is real." And I am patient on the quarterback, and I'm willing to be that way. Obviously, Mahomes is an absolute stud, and I'll jump on that bandwagon for sure. But I am officially continuing to stay off the Josh Allen bandwagon. And so that's my overreaction. And my underreaction, I guess that's my underreaction. My overreaction is Jameis Winston has taken New Orleans to the top of that division. He's learned not to throw deep, which I think is more important than him throwing deep. He's running the Sean Payton offense, and he has the gun to go deep when he wants to. And if and when Thomas comes back, that is going to be a connection for him, very similar to what he was able to do on the positive side with Evans, with a coach who's going to tell him not to throw it there unless it's open. So that's my under and overreaction from week 1 on quarterbacks.
That was the scariest thing I thought of with that Saints game was like they're doing this to the Packers and they don't even have a full complement of their offensive. Like they don't have arguably the best wide receiver, one of the best wide receivers in the game. And I was like, what is he going to do to teams when he gets Mike Thomas back? Like if he starts gelling with everybody else and then you got to worry about Mike Thomas being split out wide. I was like, because I was wondering, I'm like, are they legit or was this a fluke or whatever? So I mean, my overreaction is the Miami Dolphins are going to the Super Bowl. We're undefeated right now. It's 72 all over again. 2 is the truth. We said Miami and Dallas. That's the Super Bowl me and Scott agreed on. And we're going to call Sheldon. He's going to join us for the viewing party. My underreaction is kind of the opposite of you guys. Yeah, my underreaction is everything's okay in Green Bay. Yeah, sure. Everything. I remember what that man did to Mike McCarthy a couple years ago. He doesn't want to be there. So, just the RELAX and it's just one game. Yeah. Okay. Everything's fine.
He's also playing for next year. So, and he doesn't want his legacy to be tarnished out of that.
If he gets, there is no next year. If Jeopardy picked up the phone and said, okay, we need a host. Bye. Like he's out. Like there's not even a next week. He's on the plane. He's in LA and he's hosting Jeopardy. He's done. Like that's the thing that people don't realize. Go back and watch the last year he played with Mike McCarthy when he was delivered 3rd and 3 and he's checking off at the line of scrimmage, throwing bombs 30 yards downfield. He's not a team player. He never has been. He's always been about Aaron Rodgers, and Aaron Rodgers wants to do Aaron Rodgers things, and football's not at the top of that list anymore. People need to understand that.
I do think that Jeopardy was leverage against the Packers. I would not be, especially given how much of a mess the Jeopardy hosting situation turned out, I would not be surprised if they go back to that. And also, I think he actually did okay as a Jeopardy host. So I would not be surprised if they do call him back and he does bail to host Jeopardy next year.
Especially if they're this season. I'm talking this season. If they keep struggling and that phone rings, my shoulder's a little sore. You know what? Oh, my girl, maybe my fiance's prego or something. He's out. Like he'll be the guy. It'll be one of the most notorious just departures in the history of sports. He's going to leave in the middle of the season if that phone rings and Jeopardy says, hey, we got a job for you.
It could go the other way where if the Packers get off to, if we're midseason and the Packers have started, 2-6 or some kind of, disaster season in the making and Packers management goes to Rodgers and says, okay, we're putting Jordan Love in, so we're going to see what we have for next year since this season's bad. I think Rodgers absolutely says, all right, I'm out, takes his ball and goes home.
Oh yeah, 100%. I agree with that too. Yeah, he's done.
Jeopardy or not, I think if that happens, he's out the door.
Yep. I don't know. I think if that happens, which I don't think is out of the question, if they're struggling 2-6, I don't think he walks on the money. I think he gets a mysterious injury.
Yeah.
He's not giving up the money.
Yeah, like I'm saying, my shoulder. Yeah. Like, I got an MRI. They don't know what's wrong with it, or my back or something. Yeah, like you said, he'll find a reason to bail, like to not play. But yeah, if they struggle, I don't see him finishing the season one way or another.
Yeah, and he clearly stated football's not life or death for him anymore.
Well, I guess at a certain point, you've accomplished all that you wanted, but again, you don't really want to. Your legacy becomes, like I said, very important that way. And I don't think he'd want to necessarily. I don't personally see it. I don't see him necessarily bailing, just to be able to say, you know what, I'm out. I think he's got too much. At the end of the day, he's got too much loyalty to his own rep, and I don't know. Maybe he wants to kind of show Green Bay, you know what, I still have what it takes, even though you try to get rid of me.
I think that Aaron Rodgers will be happy to go into Hollywood with a bad guy persona.
Yeah.
Like I think he will market it, make it work, and be that guy. Get the commercials because he's that guy. Play it off in Jeopardy the entire time. And we'll forgive him because it will be an act and we'll like it in 10, 15 years. And I think he's smart enough to know that he can get away with that and keep his football legacy intact.
Unless he wins his second Super Bowl, he's not going to pass the other Packers' great quarterbacks anyway. So it doesn't no matter how many touchdowns he throws, unless he wins the second Super Bowl, he's still not as good as Brett Favre or Bart Starr. So that's the only thing that changes his legacy.
How about Jim McMahon?
If that Super Bowl trophy isn't coming, then his legacy's locked there.
I don't know if anybody actually picked up on that.
I heard you.
What is he?
One season, Jim McMahon was their quarterback.
Oh yeah. That's right. People forget that. Yeah, because he showed up. That was like the trivia question because when they had the 100th anniversary game or something, and they're like, "Oh yeah, by the way, this guy played for us too," and he's like, "Did you forget that?"
We should do trivia again. We haven't done that in a while.
I look forward to doing that this time around.
All right. Let me see what
Aaron Rodgers, like JD said, though, it's true. His legacy is he won early, and I think I think he kind of it was downhill from there. He got what he wanted. I understood he felt jaded because he had to wait for Favre, and it's going to be interesting this even now. Like they go get Jordan Love, and he's like, oh, and he's like he never turned the other cheek. And like I said, he'll be the villain. He's got his commercials already, so there's a lot of other things on the list of life that he wants to do, and football might not even be in the top 5 as far as we know.
You're right. Well, like I said, he's accomplished a lot. But all right,
there's some great quarterbacks that never even won one. So for him to get that one,
Rob knows all about that.
Dan Marino.
Yeah.
But, all right, so we got about 15 minutes left, which I think is enough time to be able to work on the obscure sport. As we pull that up, I do want to clarify one thing. Throughout the course of this show, we have had a lot of really stupid sports covered. Most of them by and large, have been male-dominated. I am referring to, of course, we had Bruce Kashi. We have had Calico Storico, Taser Ball, which is exactly what it sounds like if you never saw that one. One of my personal favorites was also the Flaming Soccer Ball one out of the Philippines, which I think we should revisit. Like we talked about revisiting those at some point. But if we can pull up the latest video of what we have of the obscure sport this week, and I'm trying to basically stall for time a little bit as this video gets pulled up. Let's see. Let's see. Were you getting on the stream to you? No, I didn't see him pop up. Hey, Brian Ergo and Jason Pepper. No, I'm not seeing them. I will figure that out. I will apologize for that.
Did you see the one that was to me?
No, I haven't seen any of them actually.
Yeah, I haven't been getting any. I have one that just says, I got one from Debbie Weiss Yogel that said, OB, the Eagles fan.
Eagles fan. That's what's popping up over here.
Okay, so that one was on my feed, but I just happened to check out your Facebook feed.
We're working on the kinks on this thing.
Yes. Jason and Brian, we see you, and hopefully we covered the Jets and Aaron Rodgers enough for you both.
So, it's not popping up on my side. All right, we will figure this out. We'll get back to it on that. But in the meantime, if we can pull this up, like I said, we have covered some really stupid sports. Most of them have, by and large, covered the XY chromosome, shall we say. Bruce Kashi, Calico Storico, Taser Ball. But when it comes to certain things like pillow fighting, what does one think of typically?
Oh, I had a lot of pillow fights as a kid. So when I think of it, I'm like, where's the feather pillow? Because that was always the hammer. Like the cotton stuff never did it, but you had a good feather pillow, you could get all those feathers into one end, and it was like a mallet. Like it was just start swinging it, and me and my cousins used to just blast each other with them. So
I've seen people get blasted from pillow fights. you get him at the right angle, you can do some damage. Like you can sprain neck or something.
And the funny thing about it is basically this was something that originated back in 2006. It disappeared in 2011 and is now coming back. It is out of Canada and also New York City. It is called the Professional Pillow Fight League. It is exclusive to women only. That is the rules of it. That's just how they decided to roll with it. And as I had mentioned in social media posts leading up to this, it is a sport that will in fact knock your teeth out. It is the equivalent of, shall we say, UFC and everything allowed with it, but with a pillow. So this particular sport, you're allowed to punch, you're allowed to kick, you're allowed to do all of that, but the pillow has to come first before your hit does. So if you imagine everything that basically we talked about with the UFC, a nice little pillow in front to basically just absorb some of the injuries. I'm not sure exactly why the video is not coming up, so I'm just going to explain it a little bit more at this point. Matches go on just like they do with UFC until someone is physically incapable of being able to stand up on a 10 count, or they in fact tap out. This is something that injuries are normal, concussions, fractured ligaments, fractured bones, torn ligaments is what I should be trying to say there, busted teeth. It is all 100% normal and allowable and acceptable. This is a sport that was originated in Toronto, and it's something that, honestly, I think we should spend a little bit of time on, just kind of cover as far as we normally do in this case. Oddity, obscurity, stupidity, badassery. I think we need to cover that too. I'm not sure if the video is not coming up or what the dealio is here, but we will make do and manage that regardless as we need to. I figure let's start this off. I will probably have to continue with this. No, we're not getting it yet. Bollocks.
What was the name of it, Scott? The women's?
It's called Professional Pillow Fight League. Can you stream through it? Oh, wait. Maybe we have something here. So, trying to pull this up. Right now we got a black screen. That is basically when you get knocked out. That is literally all you're going to be seeing. And eventually when you wake up, that is what you end up seeing.
And boy, do you regret seeing this.
Exactly. You know, honestly, like I said, it happened by a blink of an eye. It's so amazing that way. I put a lot of time into that video today. I'm kind of bummed by that. Anyway, oddity, obscurity, playability, watchability, and badassery, which we're going to roll with if and when the video itself pops up. Oddity, I'm giving this thing an A-. When you think about things like pillow fighting, you think about it's not exactly what you consider. So, all right, I think we got something. Okay. So this right here is professional pillow fighting. It is no hold barred. The rule is that you are not, in fact, allowed to strike without the pillow. If the pillow leads your punch to someone's face, that is completely acceptable, as you can see right there. This is Dynamite versus Jackie Jossett. They have a lot of names like that. Dynamite is one of them. Polyester is a few others. There was a full league for a while. In my case, I will give this an oddity of an A-, just by virtue of the fact that I never even knew something like this possibly existed. And it's not usually what one thinks about when it comes to pillow fighting. Obscurity, also probably an A- on that. Playability, I think anybody is capable of swinging a pillow and smacking someone over the head with it. I don't think, for me personally, it would be really something really right up my alley. Watchability, honestly, I gave it like a C-. I think it's interesting, it's quirky, it's bizarre, but I lost a little bit of interest in it. But what's interesting about it is the one blonde girl is extremely, extremely angry, as you're going to see at the end of this video here. And she just tapped out, she gave up, and she is lost. Tensions obviously run high when you're smacking someone in the face with a pillow. And badassery, though, I'm giving it a straight A. You know, I think it takes a lot of guts to go into the ring, whatever the ring may be, even whether you got, a pillow or not. But that right there is professional pillow fighting. And like I said previously, up to this point, most of the sports that we've had have been male-dominated, so we're going to go with one on the female side of it. Obi, how about you, sir?
All right. Thank you for asking. So I got oddity a C. I mean, like you said, we've all been in pillow fights. Just because you're making it, giving it rules, doesn't really make it that odd. The rules look pretty much like you said, like UFC. So oddity is C. Obscurity, never heard of it in anything other than 80s movies and me and my brother and cousins. So I am going to give that a B because as a real sport, it is kind of obscure. Playability. If it was like men, I'd give it a B because I would be allowed to play, but I'm getting old and don't want to get hurt. But because of the gender rules right now, it's going to fall to a C. Watchability, A. it is, let's just say it's a burgeoning sport now, but you start to pay those athletes and you're going to get better and better fights, and it's going to be full on, just like UFC, just like any other good martial arts sport, and just higher level of athletes. It's going to make it all the way up to the A in watchability. And it moves right up to number 2 in our list of martial arts sports. Under Calico Storico, right above chess boxing.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Rob, how about you, sir?
Oddity, I'll give it a C, because it's like Obi kind of said, it's a combination of two things we've had before, pillow fighting and MMA. And I think I actually did the Improv Everywhere pillow fight in New York a couple of years ago.
Okay.
Like, I have to go. It's on my social media somewhere with my friends Marielle and a couple other girls from Long Island. So it was a fun experience. But the combat, what was that?
Aren't they the ones that do the no pants subway ride?
Yeah. Well, I used to do that too as well. And that's No Pants is in January and December. In January in New York, which is, it depends on. So I did one where it was like 76 degrees in New York, and another one where it was like 14 degrees. But then pillow fight is like in the springtime. But Obscurity, I'll give it a B, because it is a unique combination of things. And I was watching the video going like, what if I just tape pillows to my legs? Can I then strike freely, like, and kick and everything, and like I start modifying the rules? But I agree with Obi on the playability. The gender exclusivity makes it a C for me. Mm-hmm. So it is a little. It was fun. The watchability gave it a B, because it was fun to see, like, basically you're trying to suffocate somebody with a pillow while you punch them in the face. Like, there was you're holding the pillow up. It almost looks like a gimmick of like, hold this, and then bam, like you just want to like you could do that to your friend, be like, hey, hold this pillow. Why? And then you just punch him through the pillow and be like, pillow fight.
I have one more follow-up question on this. I think I know what the answer is going to be, but we'll get to that in a minute. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, so it was Oddity C, Obscurity B, Playability C, and Watchability B. So
all right, cool. Mr. Walker, how about you? As I'm looking down at you, a la Brady Bunch right now.
I would go with I would do it a B plus for Oddity. As it's already been, it's a combination of two things. B plus for Obscurity as well. It reminds me of like this is kind of like what I imagine like sorority hazing to be, not which is actually quite violent.
I've heard that.
Yeah, like worse. Like I heard worse hazing stories from girls in sororities at my college than from the guys, so it's in the 80s movies. It's really like that. Playability. It's something that it's something that I could how well would be. That's a whole other discussion. I give it a B for me. Because of the UFC element to it. A minus for badassery.
Yeah, I think we all kind of agree on that one. It takes some guts to do that pillow or not. Magic question that I have for the final question. Would Jake Paul do this for $1 million on pay-per-view?
Yes, he would.
Yes, he would.
Not enough for him. $1 million? Okay. He gets much more than that, doesn't he? At this point.
Oh, does he? Well, no, he's taking less money for everyone else to get it. So, that's his claim now.
Okay.
Well, yeah, he's got another fight coming up.
I would
but we'll
buy
that at that point.
I would seriously consider chipping in one of these ladies beat up Jake Paul with a pillow with a because he just
I think a lot of people are going to pay that.
He has a good comfortable face, and the Paul brothers are wrong with you. There's and give the other ones a bad.
I'm going to say no because I think that he's actually developing skills as a boxer, and to put himself in an MMA situation, he would lose. I mean, I think he's I know we laugh at him and he's a celebrity boxer, but as I said before, he's at that age where he's really just training. He's fighting tomato cans, and that's what every boxer who was ever great did. So I'm not counting Jake Paul out as a contender someday or whichever poll is actually doing well, or I'm just not counting them out yet. And I think they're focused enough to stick with boxing and the skill. So I'm going to vote no because I think there's some legitimacy to what they're trying to do with their boxing.
Fair. And to be fair, also, they're pretty much close to half our ages and worth well above what we are at this point.
Logan would do it. Jake wouldn't. Logan is the one who gets his butt whooped. Jake is the one who has had remote success. Yeah.
Got it.
Okay.
Although he retired and unretired in the span of 24 hours. So.
The entire sport of
Ask Hackler about that. That's a definite thing you do.
All right, so we got about 3 minutes left. I mentioned this at the top of the show. I'm going a little off topic right now, but news came down earlier, and Rob, I know you didn't know about this till the show started, but Norm Macdonald recently passed away. We will be discussing this at length on the 8 o'clock show tonight in about 3 hours' time, Tales from the Film Set. We're going to be talking about this. We've had a quick meeting about that, talking about his life, his legacy, the hilarity of everything that man has done, from SNL all the way to Mike Tyson Mysteries. And as far as this goes, I'm kind of bummed out because whenever you see someone like that pass away, it changes the dynamic of what you watch. I, like a lot of people, when I went online, I was watching the SNL Burt Reynolds stuff, the Toad Ferguson, things like that, Pigeon, and it changes a little bit of the feel of it when you find out that somebody like that is gone. So anyway, I just needed to kind of get this out of my system a little bit. I like the guy. I always wanted to meet him and hang out with him because I think he would have been a really cool hangout. And I've been fortunate to meet and hang out with a couple of good people over the years that since passed away. He is a missed opportunity for me. So.
His Burt Reynolds impression on Celebrity Jeopardy is one of my favorite of all time.
Classic.
Yeah, that was Celebrity Jeopardy on SNL with him and then the Connery and it's iconic. Like, he was part of that. It's one of the most iconic sketches of all time, in my opinion, for SNL. And he made it what it is, he was one of those people who was a staple of it.
Yeah. But we'll probably be doing a little bit of a tribute to that, talking about Matrix 4 as well, obviously. But anyway, we've got a couple minutes left. Any final thoughts from you guys on any topic at this point?
Norm Macdonald,
Brian,
short-lived sports show on sports talk show, I believe, on Comedy Central, which was actually not bad. So it's sort of sports related. It's not as far off topic as you think. But
he was a huge sports guy. But yeah. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah.
My one thing is Brian Kelly needs to be fired before the season's over at Notre Dame, before he breaks Knute Rockne's record and doesn't even have a national title. Because if you got to Google who you're talking about as part of a joke, like the John McKay or whoever it was guy, like I had to Google it to know it was the coach of the Tampa Bay Bucks from the 70s. And like somebody from Barstool said it best, like when you're a guy who is technically responsible for the death of a college student, you probably shouldn't be making jokes about executing your players. Yeah. And I'm a Notre Dame fan, and I've never been a Brian Kelly fan. I wanted him out the door after like the first year. I knew he was overrated, and he's just, I never liked him. And he just continues to reinforce that and prove that I'm right about him.
As a former team manager, how he got that kid killed made me lose all respect for him. I've never been a Notre Dame fan, but the last shred of respect that I had for Notre Dame University and Notre Dame football went out the window with that, because that was a kid who was working for the team like I was, and he died because of the coach's ego. Yeah.
Like common sense, dude. It's like the wind is blowing at 25 miles an hour. I probably shouldn't put the cherry picker up in the air. Like,
we can discuss that probably next week too. But we got to wrap it up right now. As always, you can find us on Facebook and also on Instagram at Spanglish World Sports Den, SSW Sports Den on Twitter. Thanks as always to Mr. Obi Spencer, Mr. JD Walker, and Mr. Robert Stats. This has been Tales from the Film Set. Thanks as always for tuning in.
No, this is Sports Den.
Sports Den. Later.
Oh my God, it's my first day back in like 4 weeks.
Scott, you gotta keep them all straight.
Yeah. Tales from the Sports Den. How about that? I apologize. My God, that was a smooth move on my part. Anyway, have a good night. Goodbye. Get out. I'm getting out.
See you later.